Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 presidential election in a scenario in which what if the polls underestimated Donald Trump once again, as they did both in 2016 and in 2020 massively. Now, even though Biden still won in 2020 and Trump lost, but still he was supposed to win by way more than what he actually did. For example, nationwide, Biden was supposed to win the popular vote by like 9 percentage points, right? He only won it by 4 realistically, so that's roughly a 5-point shift, or that's roughly a 5-point polling error actually, and we're going to be applying the polling error to this electoral map. But before we get started with the map, make sure you guys are subscribed, click the bell so you don't miss out on my content, press the like button, give this video a thumbs up. Also, we have memberships, you can find the links to that in the description section if you are interested. So this video is going to be based off the polls from 2024, and we're going to be applying the 2020 polling error. And as of right now, Kamala Harris, believe it or not, is defeating Donald Trump nationwide with the popular vote. She's ahead by 1.5 percentage points. She's polling at 45.1% to Donald Trump's 43.6 as of today, August 3rd. Obviously, and RFK Kennedy's polling at 5.7%. So he is getting slightly above 5%, which you take a look at the 13 keys, that would actually, third party key would actually go in favor of Donald Trump realistically, but I'm not quite sure if Alan Lichtman is going to go based off of 538. So let's begin with the West Coast, and we'll make our way up to the Northeast with the Rust Belt, starting off with the state of Nevada. So back in 2020, Biden was supposed to win this state. If you take a look at August 3rd polls, he was supposed to win this state by 6.5%. Obviously, realistically, he only won it by a little bit over a couple percentage points. So that's roughly a 4% in terms of polling error. And now you take a look at, in this election against Trump and Harris, they are currently tied according to Bloomberg from the most recent latest poll conducted from July 24th through the 28th, which is the most recent one, I believe, from this state, and the sample size is pretty small. So they're both at 43%, and Kennedy's polling at 7% in the state. So they're actually tied. If you apply the polling error, Trump's going to win this by a lean margin, because like I mentioned, in 2020, Biden was supposed to win this state at this point in time, August 3rd, by 6.5%. As you can see right here, August 3rd of 2020, 6.5, and he only won it by, I believe, 2.3%. So that's roughly a 4% polling error. So that's going to be lean for Donald Trump in this state. And now if this were to happen, he would probably have to flip Washoe County, which is more than likely going to happen at this point, and also run up the numbers in Clark County, the Vegas area, among Hispanic voters. That would be key to his victory, and I think he can do exactly that. Now moving on to the southern state of Arizona. Obviously, this is a border state, very important, and this is once again a losing issue for Kamala Harris. And even though you might say the border's not a winning issue for Donald Trump, it's still definitely not going to help Kamala Harris. And let's take a look at the polling error from 2020 in the state of Arizona. So at this point in time, Biden was supposed to win it by 3.6%. While he did win it, the margin was vastly smaller, of roughly 3-point polling error, I would say, because he only won it by 0.3%, a margin of like 11,000 votes realistically. So we take a look at right now in 2024. So as of right now, according to the RCP averages, Donald Trump has a spread of 2 percentage points. That is his current lead. He's up by a couple percent. That's going to be considered a lean margin. Now, the thing that's really swaying this is coming from a highly rated, accurate pollster, A+ rating on 538, and that's The Hill and Emerson College, with 800 registered voters, which shows that Donald Trump's up by 8%. And Bloomberg and Morning Consult shows Harris up by 4 percentage points. Probably a left-leaning internal pollster, not accurate whatsoever. So realistically, when you apply the 3% polling error that Joe Biden was supposed to win it by back in 2020, realistically Trump wins this state by 5 percentage points, which you can argue is a lean to likely margin. We'll leave it as a lean for now. We'll be nice to Kamala Harris. And if this were to happen, Trump would obviously have to flip Maricopa County. Maricopa went to Biden by 2 points just 4 years ago. It's a must win for him, and that's basically what this state entirely comes down to. And also, Trump must win over the independents, obviously the moderates, the neocons, the establishment. There's a lot of McCain-style voters. The Mitt Romneys of Arizona really make up a big majority of Arizona's Republican Party as a whole, and a lot of them broke for Biden in 2020, and I don't see how they can go for Harris this time around. So I think Trump would probably win over that block in 2024, as well as make gains among Hispanic voters as well, and also the border is just a mess at this point, so Trump's probably going to win this state. By the way, you might be wondering why we're not going over Iowa, Ohio, Florida, Texas, Colorado, New Mexico as an example. It's because that even though they're considered swing states, which I'm using quotations by the way, it's not really, those states are not really swing states. Obviously, Colorado and New Mexico are not really swing states. They always vote to the left overwhelmingly. I don't know why they're considered battleground states. And then you have obviously Ohio, Iowa, Texas, Florida, which always basically votes to the right ever since I would say Trump took office, at least. And so those aren't the true battleground states. I would say the real battleground states, and I believe you can agree with me on this, is Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Virginia. Those are the real swing states. And now we're going to be moving on to the state of Georgia, and Trump has to flip this if he wants to win the election. I think it's one of the more easier flips for him. And now let's take a look at the polling error from 2020 in this state. So at this current time, back in August 3rd of 2020, Biden was supposed to win it by 0.4%. So actually, realistically, this was extremely spot on. It was actually accurate because the real margin was 0.2 on election day. So that's roughly a 0.2%, I would say, polling error. And that's not really that much. So we're going to be going based off of exactly what the current polls are saying from 538, in which it shows as of right now, Donald Trump has a 1 percentage point lead in the state. That's going to be considered a tilt margin. 45.8% to Kamala Harris's 44.8% in the deep southern state of Georgia. Obviously, you have Trafalgar, I would say a right-leaning pollster, in which it shows Trump only up by 2. So maybe realistically, Kamala Harris has a decent shot of actually winning this state in this year's election cycle. So basically, it's extremely close, and it's nearly going to go to Donald Trump by the smallest amount of 1 percentage point when you apply that polling error. And I believe that Trump must make gains in Atlanta, the suburbs, the metropolitan area, as well as Savannah, if he really wants to win this state. And he needs to win over that Brian Kemp support, because without Brian Kemp, Trump basically cannot win this state. And even at his rally in Atlanta just today, or yesterday actually, Donald Trump bashed Brian Kemp, and that's not going to go well for him. And so I think that really increases Kamala Harris's chances in this state. And he would have to do better among African-American voters, which Kamala Harris right now looks like she's going to do better than Joe Biden, at least, which Biden was going to do worse than Harris among black support, according to the polls. And now we move on to the state of North Carolina. So back in 2020, Biden was supposed to win this state by 2.8%. He ended up losing it. Donald Trump won it by roughly 1.5 percentage points. So that's going to be roughly, I would say, a 4% shift in terms of polling error in favor of the former president this time around, if this election basically was decided by the polling error, and if Donald Trump were to be underestimated once again. That's going to be basically a 4-point polling error. And as of right now, Donald Trump is defeating Kamala Harris with all the third-party candidates included. And according to the Hill and Emerson, Trump's defeating Harris by 9 points in the state, according to a large sample size of 1,000 registered voters. Now, that was really a long time ago, so let's just forget about that. How about the most recent one conducted from, I would say, July 24th to the 28th from Bloomberg and Morning Consult with 706 registered voters. Donald Trump's up by 2%, and I would say that's more on the realistic side. So if you apply that polling error, Trump's going to win this state by 6 points, because obviously they underestimated him by roughly 4 points in 2020 at this point in time, and he's only up by 2% as of right now. So obviously 2 plus 4 is going to be 6 percentage points when you do apply that polling error. If he were to be underestimated by the 2020 polling error margin, he's going to win North Carolina by actually a likely margin, not a lean one, by 6 percentage points. This state's actually getting redder, and Republicans are doing tremendous in terms of getting new voter registration on their side. And now we're going to be moving on to the state of Virginia. Back in 2020, Biden was supposed to win the state of Virginia by roughly 10.7 percentage points, in which realistically that basically was spot on in terms of the margin, because he did win it by roughly 10 percentage points. So basically, when it comes to polling here, this was actually extremely accurate. So we're going to be basing this off of the exact margin of Kamala Harris's lead in this state of 5 percentage points, which is going to be considered a lean margins. Really no polling error in Virginia because it was just so spot on. Obviously, the margins were extremely accurate, I would say. So no really polling error here. So Virginia is going to be a lean for Kamala Harris. Now we're moving on to the Rust Belt states, starting off with Minnesota. Trump was supposed to lose this state by 8.2% just 4 years ago, and obviously Biden only won it by 7.3 percentage points. So it's roughly a polling error of 0.9%, almost a percentage point. Now in 2024, according to Fox News, Kamala Harris is supposed to win the state by 6 percentage points. And the thing that's really swaying this for her, and that's why the average is actually even more to the left by 8 percentage point, is the poll from Survey USA, in which I think is obviously not on the accurate side. It's probably a left-leaning internal pollster, has her up by 10, which is more of a margin than Biden, which I just don't think is going to happen. And so let's just ignore that. Let's go with the one from Fox News with 1,071 registered voters, a large sample size, which she's up by 6. So if you apply that 1% polling error to this electoral map from 2020, Harris still wins by a margin of 5 percentage points, so pretty sizable lead for her. That's going to be considered a lean margin. Obviously, the suburbs here, and when it comes to the women vote, I think really can turn out for Harris. Obviously, in Minneapolis is really shifting towards the left. So this state's actually getting bluer. And now moving on to the state of Wisconsin. So Biden was supposed to win this Rust Belt state by 6.5 percentage points back in 2020. Realistically, he only won it by 0.6%, which is actually less of a margin than Trump's victory in the state back in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. So when you apply that polling error, I would say it's roughly a 5% polling error to the right in favor of Donald Trump. And you take a look at right now, in which Trump is defeating Harris in this state by a margin of 0.3% on average, according to RCP. And so when you apply that 5% polling error, Trump's going to win it by roughly 5.5 percentage points. And so with that being said, that's going to be considered a lean margin for Trump in Wisconsin. I expect him to run up the numbers in some of these stronghold Republican counties like Green Bay. And if Harris does not go in par or in line with Joe Biden's margin in Milwaukee, which Milwaukee was the only reason why he won the state, along with Door County, which I think Trump is going to flip Door County, then Harris is probably not going to win this state in 2024. And keep in mind that Wisconsin is the reddest Rust Belt state of the most important three. Obviously, Wisconsin voted to the right of both Michigan and Pennsylvania in 2016 and in 2020, and I believe in the Obama era as well. Now, moving on to the state of Michigan, which this state was the bluest Rust Belt state of them all in 2020. Obviously, Michigan voted to the left of both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. So as of right now, Kamala Harris has a almost 2-point lead in this state, 1.8 to be exact, 44.8% to Donald Trump's 43% in the state of Michigan. So according to the polls, she is winning this. Now, according to the 2020 polling error in this state, Biden was supposed to win this by 7.5 percentage points. And polls really changed every single day very vastly. It was extremely different each day, so they changed drastically depending on which day you looked at. So he only won it by almost 3 percentage points. So if you apply a polling error, honestly, it's a 4-point shift to the right. And as of right now, Harris is, by the way, is winning this state by 2 percentage points. So realistically, according to the polling error, Trump's going to win the state of Michigan by a couple percentage points, a lean margin when you apply that polling error in 2024 if he were to be underestimated once again. Now, I have made it clear in the past, when Biden was still in the race, I have stated that I really did think that for the first time Trump would be overestimated and Biden was going to be underestimated in this election for 2024. But ever since he dropped out and Kamala Harris replaced him, I am now starting to turn back to the original ways, and I'm going to say that Trump is going to be underestimated once again. And now moving on to the state of Pennsylvania, which also basically is not really a must-win for Trump because he can still win Wisconsin and Arizona, but still lose Michigan, Pennsylvania, but still somehow get to 270 electoral votes. Obviously, he's going to have to flip Erie County, as well do better in Centric County and flip Northampton County, and Kamala Harris must do good in some of these stronghold Democratic counties like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. The suburbs are really important. I just don't get how someone who doesn't even come from the Rust Belt, she's from California, I don't get how she's going to do good in some of these Rust Belt states unless she picks someone like Josh Shapiro as her running mate. So as of right now, Kamala Harris, believe it or not, is defeating Donald Trump in the state of Pennsylvania by a margin of 0.5 percentage points. And now back in 2020, Biden was supposed to win the state of Pennsylvania by a margin of 6.7 percentage points. Realistically, he won it by 1.2% to be exact. So when you apply that polling error, it's roughly a 5-point swing to the right according to the polling error. And so basically, Donald Trump, according to 2024, in which Harris has a lead of just 0.5%, he's going to win the state by 5 points, according to the polling error, which is a lean margin. And now moving on to the state of New Hampshire, which just has a lot of college-educated voters. Also, they are very anti-incumbent. They favor the challenger, which really can sway this race in favor of Donald Trump. But as of right now, Kamala Harris has a lead in the state of New Hampshire by 6.5 percentage points. She's polling at 48.5% to Donald Trump's 42 percentage points, with all the third-party candidates included, Kennedy, Stein, and West, obviously. Now, back in 2020, Biden was supposed to win the state on August 3rd, which is the day I'm recording this, by 9.2%, which is, when you apply that polling error, he only won it by 7 points. So that's going to be a 2% in terms of polling error shift to the right in favor of Donald Trump. When you apply the polling error to Kamala Harris's lead of 6.5%, she's going to win the state by 4 percentage points, which is a pretty good victory, in my opinion. That's going to be actually lean for her, according to the polling error. So as of right now, Trump's going to get 312 electoral votes. If the election was decided by the polling error, and if he were to be underestimated once again, this is how the map would look like, to Kamala Harris's 226 electoral votes. So let me know what states you agree with or disagree with in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe, click the bell, don't miss out on my content. And we have memberships. You can find links to that in the description section if you are interested. Press the like button, give this video a thumbs up. That's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.